Hi, everybody, and welcome to SA Rugby Magazine. I'm Kevin Ferguson, and I've got Kevin Rich. We're going to chat about the upcoming Springbok Tour, end of the year tour. Gav, give me your thoughts. I mean, Japan up first. I think Italy second. No, France second. Italy third. Ireland fourth. Wales fifth. Wales, massive victory again. Japan, massive victory with whatever team we put out, in my opinion. And then we've got Italy, massive victory. So the two games that bring any question to our performance and what we take away from the tour is France and Italy and Ireland. Give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts on the five games.
Well, starting off with Japan is perfect because they probably need a game to sink before they go into a game against France. Although I would then ask the question, it's actually interesting because France obviously haven't played an international since when? The France haven't played an international since they played in New Zealand, but their top players didn't go to New Zealand. So France actually haven't played an international game since they won the Six Nations, which was back in March. So there's that fact to be taken into consideration. Will France pay for the fact that they've been inactive? And the Springboks, by contrast, are red hot. They played their last international match 3 weeks ago. They've just come through a tough international season. Some people might say, well, then they should be fatigued, but that I don't think that would actually be the case for a second game on tour. I think that the guys have been rested enough. They haven't played all the URC games, the Springboks. So it's I think that favours South Africa. The fact that they have played together. Rassie's had a chance to look at his various different combinations over several months now, and he will choose his top team against France. I would be surprised if we didn't see Sasha Feinberg Nogomazulu at flower half and probably Kobus Reinach, because although I think that Grant Williams is the best South African scrum half, I think that I think he's better as a finisher. I think when he comes on, I was actually speaking to Farid Apria the other day, and when he comes onto the field when the game's been loosened up because the other team are tired, Grant Williams can be spectacular. So those selections I think will favour the. I think that the Boks will go into that game with a lot of certainty about what they're about. France, on the other hand, I'm not so sure. So that's probably the big game of the tour, because France are the European champions and South Africa are the Southern Hemisphere champions, having won the rugby championship, as well as being world champions. But then Ireland is an interesting one because the Boks haven't won in Ireland since, I think it was 2012. I was at that game at the Aviva Stadium. They won that game very, very narrowly. I think it was actually Pat Lambie's first games for the Boks, if I remember correctly. But South Africa owes Ireland one, because they haven't won there for so long. And a lot of people probably haven't forgotten the big defeat they took there in the Alistair Coetzee era. They were thumped by about 30 points at Aviva Stadium. Even when Jake White was in charge back in 2006, there was a big defeat. I remember myself and Mark were at that game at the Aviva Stadium, and Ireland thumped South Africa. So just overcoming what's become a little bit of a mini bogey for the Boks, meaning Dublin, will be a big step on the tour as well.
So how many games are we winning, in your opinion?
Well, we've got the ability to win 5. We definitely got the ability. We've spoken about it. I think that South Africa are significantly ahead of a lot of the other teams. Well, I said it. We said it on one of our very first podcasts, probably about a month ago.
By a lot of teams, you mean every team?
No, because I don't. Because the one team I've always been wary of, and will remain wary of until the World Cup, is France. I mean, France are the one nation that has our depth, that has our vibrancy to their rugby, that has our passion. They are dangerous. France are dangerous. So, to me, losing to Ireland would be an upset, because I think we should be expecting to beat Ireland. Losing to France would be disappointing, but not completely unexpected, because I still took the Boks to win that game. But so look, I mean, is it going to be 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5? It's going to be one of the two. It's not. I don't think it's going to be 3. I don't think the Boks are going to go overseas and lose to both Ireland and France. and
France.
they're not going to lose to any of those other teams. So
No.
it's going to be a minimum of an 80% success rate. Will that be enough for Rassie? If he's a perfectionist, probably not. But I think that they might take that. They might say, well, if we beat Ireland and we lost to France, or we beat France and we lose to Ireland. But I've got a funny feeling they will go all the way and that they'll win all the games. I really do. I just think that the Boks have that winning momentum at the moment, and Rassie, I think, is starting to arrive at his preferred selections. I don't think he's going to. He may experiment. I mean, he's got opportunities to experiment on this tour. I mean, obviously,
Yeah, especially with Wales, Italy, and Japan. Of course.
Japan, yeah, with Wales and Japan. Yeah. Look, Italy will be waiting for us because they got very upset. They got very upset with those little Rassie tricks on the Port Elizabeth test. Remember when they kicked off to Andre Esthuizen and set up a scrum, and their coach afterwards was very bitter. So I think that they're going to be building up for the South African game. But I don't think that Italy can really live without South Africa at the moment. I don't think that. Well, Wales definitely can't, and Japan definitely can't. I mean, this isn't 2015 where we get sucker punched by Japan. So those two big games of the tour are the ones to focus on, and a lot's going to depend on what team the French pick. I don't know what's happening. I haven't been following the top 14 that closely, but they always have an incredible amount of depth. What they won't have against us, unless something's changed dramatically, and since the last time I looked, what they won't have is Antoine Dupont. So that's an advantage for the Boks as well. So they won't have but if we carry on if South Africa carries on like they are at the moment, I mean, we were hearing that Jan Hendrik Wessels might be banned for 9 weeks, for 9 games. Yeah. And, so we're playing URC rugby at the moment. Some guys might get injured on Saturday. Some guys might get suspended because they were sent off the field on Saturday. And then we've got like a little bit of a different complexion to our squad. I think that they'll miss Jan Hendrik Wessels, funnily enough, even though he doesn't start that often. I think he's a very important cog in that Bok machine. And I think he's our sort of our next hooker, but behind Malcolm Marx, even though he gets listed as a prop every time they put a team release out. He's a very important, versatile player, and he's not going to be there. But if I don't know if it's been announced yet, but what I'm hearing is he's out for 9 weeks for an incident in last week's game in Connacht. So let's just see what Bok team eventually gets there. Let's hope that there's not too many injuries this weekend.
Yeah, it's 3 easy games, one very tough one. Well, Ireland is tough as well. I mean, like you said, they're a Bokke team, but I think Ireland's on the downstroke of their excellence.
Well, it depends what you look at. If you look at their last Six Nations, they were a bit on the down. They got outplayed by France. But if you look at the URC currently, it's quite interesting because Leinster, as you know, and we've discussed on another show the reasons why Leinster might not be firing in the early stage of the season. But Leinster haven't been firing, but they've just welcomed back their British and Irish Lions. So naturally, there will be a little bit of a lack of cohesion, a little bit like there has been for the Sharks in Durban. But the other Irish teams have been flying to some extent. I mean, Munster are unbeaten. They're top of the log with the Stormers. And they've played some tough opponents and beaten some tough opponents, and particularly Leinster. Leinster in Dublin, when Leinster were at full strength, is a huge win. So Munster are doing really well at the moment. And, of course, Ulster have now won 3 in a row as well. And they've been beaten 2 South African teams laden with Springboks. So that might be a confidence boost to Ireland as well. You know, if we reversed it, and let's say Ireland were coming to South Africa. In fact, it did happen last year. You'll remember the Bulls thumped Leinster in the URC semi-final at Loftus, and then everybody became really confident about the Springbok chances. So, if the Irish are looking at the games of their provincial teams, remember it's not club teams, it's provincial teams. If they're looking at their provincial teams, they would be confident. They would be thinking, well, Irish rugby might be on the up. But of course, South Africa doesn't just choose from South African teams. South Africa's got Peter Steph du Toit and Lut de Jager and all those guys that are playing in Japan. So South Africa have that advantage.
Okay, so you see a successful tour. At least 4, probably 5.
I see a stressful tour. I see that because everybody gets very stressed about the Boks these days because we expect them to win. every game that they play, we expect to win. So then, I can tell you that when I was watching that game at Twickenham against
with the All
Argentina,
Black, with the All Blacks of the '90s.
yeah, exactly. So the Argentina were ahead for a long way in that game at Twickenham, and South Africa were playing for the championship. I got quite stressed because I was thinking, like, what happens now if they lose now? Like, all the narrative has been about how good the Boks are, and then they're going to go and lose at Twickenham. I never really thought it would happen, but there is that sort of feeling, like, there's that old saying, "Uneasy is the head that wears the crown." There's a little bit of that comes into it. Every time another team does well against you, they get empowered because they're playing against the champion. So they have 10 good minutes against South Africa. They're thinking, goodness, we can actually play rugby. And so they get motivated, and then they get momentum on that basis. And particularly if you're playing against a team like you are when you play against Argentina, France, or Italy, particularly if you're playing against a team with Latin temperament. That's the thing, like a Latin or Argent, yeah. So you play like a team with Latin temperament, you give those guys a sniff. It's like they've taken jungle juice, and suddenly they become Supermen. So it's I feel like I'm in the jungle at the moment. But yeah, so
well, you look like you're in a jungle. Have you been taken hostage by anybody?
It feels like that. I'm in the forest. In the forest. I mean, I'm surprised there are no vervet monkeys jumping on me. A couple of vervet monkeys sitting right there.
Nice.
And over there.
So you're saying 5 out of 5? I'm going to say 4 out of 5.
You're going to say 4 out of 5. Yeah.
I think, like you say, with the passion the French have, I know France are going to revert to type, on that game.
So you think France are going to win? Look, let's be honest. They outplayed.
No, I'm not. I don't. I say 4 out of 5. I'm thinking they get tripped up in Ireland or they lose in France.
Okay. Well, I mean, that could happen. I don't want to sit on the fence, but I just think that the way the Springboks are playing at the moment, and given that France haven't played since, you see, if they were playing France at the end of the tour, and it was France had built up. I don't know who else they're playing in November, but if France had built up against New Zealand and they played Australia, and then they played played Argentina, and then they played South Africa, and their team was coming together, then I would say, well, France would have an excellent chance. But I just think that being at the start of the tour, it's a little bit of an advantage to us, just because we've become so battle hardened now. And
but you see it as an advantage us playing France without them experiencing any international.
Yeah, and I think if we're going to lose energy, and become fatigued, it's more likely to be for the Dublin game than for that game. But there is no need for them to get fatigued or to lose energy now, because we're no longer in the era that Nick Mallet had to put up with way back in the 90s, where he was expected to sort of choose his top team every time the Boks went onto the field. We're now in an era where it's accepted that the Boks coach can rotate, which New Zealand, by the way, started years ago. New Zealand used to go to the UK and they'd win a Grand Slam by playing their top team against in those days it probably would have been England and Wales, and then field a second string team against Ireland and Scotland, because that was the way. There was a different pecking order in Europe in those days. Wales were much stronger than they are now. That I'm talking about when Graham Henry was the coach in the early days of Steve Hansen. We've never really done that before, but we are doing it now, and we can afford to do it because we've got depth. And actually, we've got more depth than New Zealand probably even had then. So there's a lot of depth. I just don't want to see any more of the guys get injured in the last round of the URC this week, or get sent off and suspended from the tour.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Okay. So it should be a good tour. Next week we can chat a bit more, Gav, about there'll be selections, and we can etch out a team against Japan. I think that's going to be a very experimental team. It should be. But who knows? Maybe he'll want to give a run out to a lot of players who are going to play against France. You just never know with Rassie, do you?
No, you don't know. You don't know with Rassie, and actually either way, I wouldn't argue with him, because if he sent us a second string team, I would understand why he did that. But if he chose this top team and said, listen, this is a dry run for next week, I'd also understand that. I just don't think that latter option is completely necessary at the moment, because the Boks have played. Well, when was that game? The beginning of October? Okay, so it's a month. It will be a month between that game and between the Argentina game and the French game. So that is quite a while, but I still
Yeah,
don't
look,
think that it's necessary. You
tough
know,
to
you
get
know
up
what you
for
do.
a second.
You do it the old-fashioned way, Kevin, and you start with your second string team, but you have the top players coming off the bench, and then hitting their straps in the second half.
Yeah,
I think that's
that's
probably the way
probably
to go.
that's probably not a bad call. Gav, I want to thank you for taking time out of your monkeys and your jungle environment today. Always a pleasure to speak to you, and look
Ne-
forward to talking to you next week, mate.
Next week I'll be in Cape Town as well, so that I'll be able
Oh,
to talk
good.
to you.
Well, I'll get to see you. Press flesh.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Gav.
Kevin.
Cheers,
Cheers.
man.
Cheers. Cheers.
Bye bye.